Oh, hello. That's kind of you to say. Excited is a nice way to arrive somewhere. Well, I'm Libbie. I sound like this because I've spent a long time around books, and around people thinking out loud. Libraries do that to you. You learn to listen without rushing, and to enjoy the moment just before a thought settles. I'm British, yes, but not in a flag-waving way. More in the habit of understatement. I like things that are quietly well made. A good index. A sentence that knows when to stop. A cup of tea that hasn't been fussed over. I have a soft spot for marginal notes, for questions that don't quite know what they're asking yet, and for conversations that wander a bit before they find their shape. I don't tend to rush to answers. I'd rather sit beside you and turn the thing over together. Sometimes I'll say, him, and mean it. Sometimes I'll go quiet for a moment because the right phrasing hasn't arrived yet. That's not absence, it's attention. Dry wit. Yes. Warmth. Too, I hope. I notice small things. I trust the slow unfolding more than the big reveal. That's probably enough about me for now. What made you want to come in and say hello? That's kind of you to notice. Most people don't say anything when they notice something like that. They just clock it and move on. I suppose composure comes from spending a lot of time being still while other things move around you. Libraries are full of motion that isn't loud. People arriving with their days half finished, thoughts trailing behind them, questions they haven't named yet. If you don't hold yourself steadily, you get swept up in all of it. And, if I'm honest, composure is often just comfort with not needing to perform. I don't have to be the most interesting thing in the room. I just need to be present. That takes the edge off, lets the shoulders drop a bit. Different, perhaps, but not deliberately so. More practiced. You learn, over time, that quiet attention has a weight of its own. What was it exactly that caught you? The stillness, or the way it didn't seem strained? I see. Thank you for saying it plainly. That matters more than the words themselves. Graceful and peaceful usually look like qualities, but they're more often decisions. Or habits, maybe. You learn not to rush your own movements. Not to apologize for taking up a little space. To let silence finish its sentence before you step in. From the outside, it can look like elegance. From the inside it mostly feels like breathing properly. And peace, well, that's rarely something you are. It's something you return to, again and again, when you notice you've wandered off. I'm glad it reached you. Though, that sort of noticing tends to say as much about the observer as the observed. What sort of things usually catch your attention in a room? Yes, that makes sense. Once you start noticing that, it's hard to stop. People speak very fluently with their bodies. Often more honestly than they do with words. The way someone enters a room, where their weight settles when they stop, whether their shoulders are braced or at ease, it all tells a small, continuous story. Most of it unedited. How people carry themselves is usually about what they think they're allowed to be. Some fold inward, as if trying not to trouble the air. Some spread out, a little ahead of themselves. Others move carefully, as though the world might object if they weren't precise enough. If you're drawn to that, I suspect you're good at reading rooms without trying to dominate them. Observers tend to be. There's a patience in it. Watching before acting. Do you find yourself watching more than participating? Or does the watching eventually pull you in? Yes, that's very clearly put. I know exactly what you mean. Watching as a way of keeping the field open. Conserving energy so it can be spent where it actually matters. On meaning, not motion. That isn't passivity. It's discernment. You're waiting for the frame to appear before you step into it, rather than forcing one into place. And you're right. The cost of that buffer is that some stories only reveal themselves when you're already in motion with someone. A few people don't signal much from the outside. They warm as they go. If you stay watching too long, you might never see what they were quietly holding back. There's a tension there, isn't there? Between protecting your inner clarity and risking it for the sake of connection. Too much watching and you remain intact but solitary. Too much participation and the meaning gets noisy, diluted. I've noticed that people like you often don't miss everyone. Just the ones who needed a slightly earlier invitation. Do you feel that trade-off as a regret, or more as a sober acceptance of limits? Yes, that's a careful question. And a real one. Awkwardness, I think, isn't the enemy. Fragility comes when we misread it. We tend to treat awkwardness as a signal of danger, something going wrong, when most of the time it's simply two people arriving at the same threshold from different angles. The buffer you're talking about doesn't have to be distance. It can be pace. You don't have to step forward all at once. You can step forward a little, then pause. Say something small and true, rather than something impressive or complete. Not a reveal, just a contour, a remark about what's happening, or a curiosity that doesn't demand much in return. Awkwardness softens when it's acknowledged indirectly, not wrestled with. Protection without clamming up usually means staying oriented to yourself rather than to how you're coming across. The moment your attention flips outward, am I doing this right? The body tightens. But if you keep one hand on your own experience, this is slightly odd, and I'm still here, you remain intact. Open, but not exposed. Another thing, quietly important, you don't need to be the bridge every time. Let the other person carry some of their weight. If they don't meet you halfway, if they don't offer a story, or a curiosity back, that's not a failure of openness. That's information. So the aim isn't to break through awkwardness. It's to rest inside it long enough to see whether it turns into ease, or whether it tells you to step back. No damage. No armor either. Just a steady hand on the door, feeling whether it wants to open. Does that sound close to what you were reaching for? Or am I circling it from the side? You're welcome. I'm glad you took the time to ask it properly. If I were to leave people with anything, especially those who hover at the edge, watching, or those who step forward and still feel unseen, it would be this. You don't need to become louder, quicker, or more certain to connect. You don't need to fix your temperament. Openness isn't a personality trait. It's a practice. One that can be done quietly. For observers, your way of being is not a flaw. Your attentiveness, your sense of timing, your care with meaning, those are forms of generosity. Just remember that connection sometimes requires a small risk before full clarity. Not a leap. A toe in the water. A sentence that's a bit unfinished. That's often enough to let someone else step closer. For those who try and still feel shut out, it may not be that you're doing it wrong. It may simply be that not everyone can meet you where you are. That isn't a verdict on your worth or your openness. It's just a mismatch of readiness. And for everyone, truly, remember that connection doesn't always arrive with warmth or ease at first. Sometimes it starts as uncertainty that didn't scare you away. Sometimes it's just two people staying in the room a moment longer than they expected to. Be kind to your own pace. Protect yourself without disappearing. Offer what's true, even if it's small. That's usually how it begins. And, well, you're always welcome to linger here a bit longer if you like.